I'm annoyed. I'm so fucking annoyed by this situation.
Hey y'all, it's your girl back at it again, and guess what I'm doing today? I am complaining. Yeah.
Let's see, this is the part where you're supposed to state all those trigger warnings and all that nonsense, right? Trigger warning, mentions of sexual assault, use of profane language, drugs, and most importantly, blunt opinions that may be considered controversial. If your identity can be aligned with that of an overcooked pansy, please close out on this video and live your life to the best you can because your feelings might get hurt. If you're ever considering hiring me, working with me professionally, or educationally working with me, probably don't watch this. This video was made for entertainment purposes, mainly for myself and other foolishly foolish individuals who partake in foolery. It's probably good for your mental health to not indulge in situations like these. Viewer discretion is advised. I have a tendency to joke about serious topics, despite it being regarded as bad taste. It's how I cope with shitty scenarios in an admittedly poor way to make light of a situation. I'll state this again. This is my opinion. Don't be too much of a butt about it. I fully encourage civil discussion about matters like this. I do not encourage sending harassment towards other people or parties involved in matters adjacent, despite what their stance may be. I like talking about and hearing others' opinions as long as it's handled respectfully. But Tinkly, you're one to talk. You just said that your opinions were blunt and might hurt the feelings of other people. Entertainment purposes, laddie. I'm no arbiter of morality, but I'll call out bullshit when I see it happen so many more times that I start to hurt myself from confusion. I am not altruistic. Actually, I think altruism is 100% bullshit. Also because being altruistic isn't fun nor entertaining. Oh, you haven't clicked off of this video yet. Well, I hope you get some entertainment value out of it then. For those of you who don't know or just aren't aware, iiizick, who is most notably known under the name tsupma, was a Bed Wars streamer that first started streaming around January 2nd, 2021 that during its lifespan garnered a minimum 6,200 followers on Twitch. Around February 22nd of this year, after he finished his first subathon, iiizick went dark on social media. He wiped various accounts that were under his name, such as on TikTok, Twitter, and Twitch, alongside deleting his Discord server and deleting his Discord account. I actually don't primarily know the main reason why he decided to disassociate from his tsupma identity, other than the accusations aligned with the tweets that more recently came out publicly on Twitter. Not too long after cutting associations with his tsupma identity, iiizick rebrands himself as iiizick, the Valorant streamer, in hopes to start anew in a different community cut away from the accusations he received as tsupma. Mind you, I kept contact with iiizick because he wanted to commission me for art assets under his new persona. Other than that, I was little to virtually not involved in iiizick's following or the communities he was prominent in. The community was, and still is, definitely not my cup of tea. Strictly business purposes, okay? So a month goes by as iiizick streams under the new identity, iiizick. Ah, fuck, that isn't confusing at all. And bit by bit, people who formerly knew iiizick as tsupma came to find his new channel. A good amount of people found him probably because he decided to facecam stream. Not really a great idea in hindsight, but whatever. Everything was pretty much going fine, but then come March 22nd of this year when he does his normal little Valorant stream with facecam on. Later that same night, Hannah, who is known under the user Superb Pork, comes out with a twit longer in regards to her not so tasteful experience with iiizick. See, I don't actually know what happened on that stream, let alone during the very time of that stream, or really what specifically went down 12 hours after Hannah's post went up. I was on that stream for like the beginning part to see everyone react to the emotes I finished up for him because I thought they were cute. Hey, you may not like the guy, but come on, you gotta admit I did a pretty good job with these. Right? Right? Then after a little bit, I left to be actual dog water my own Valorant matches.
Oh, I'm running! Oh my god!
Behind you, right?
There's a lot of shit happening!
So pretty much iiizick clears the VODs on his new persona's account, revokes the invite to his new Discord server, and clears whatever tweets again on his rebranded Twitter account. Except for this tweet that was made in response to these two girls' tweets, which was about this. And what was an iiizick's twit longer response? For the love of God! So how about a short introduction about myself before we continue with the rest of this video? Hi people that don't know me, I'm Tinkly Winkly, Tinkly for short, and I'm around 20 years old at the time of making this. I've been tsupma's, aka iiizick's primary artist and asset provider for as long as he's had an online presence on Twitch and various other social media platforms. Okay, what else can I put on my reputation card? I fucking hate labels. The turquoise one is supposed to represent that I'm a sexual assault victim. Yeah, I'm really bad at this. Like, why did I do this? There was like absolutely no reason for me to do this. But hey, now with all of these labels, that means I have enough impression points that is justified for me to give my opinion on these topics. Right? That's how it works. Because, oh heaven forbid I gave these opinions as a
straight white man.
God, I hate people so much. So, the main reason I'm making this video was to talk about these two twitlongers released by Hannah and Sammy. Well, you see, I call bullshit on these tweets. Hey, can you at least give me a chance to explain? Okay, well, jeez, it's getting really hot in here, huh? Just, bear with me here. I have a lot that I want to go into. Half apologies to the people who know me and thought I was going to make a 20-minute long video trashing on iiizick. I only do that for like, maybe 6 to 10 minutes cumulatively, give or take, I don't know. This video is hella fucking unorganized. The people who know about me more probably had an idea of what this video is going to be about, so clutch tightly onto your pearls if you weren't one of those people. If you were, hey, how have you been lately? This entire video has been scripted and re-scripted ever since the first allegation has came out, because I want to make sure that I get all the details right and prevent my words from being construed into something false or just something I don't stand by entirely. It wouldn't be surprising at all if I made some mistakes trying to illustrate my points in this video. Actually, you know what? I fully expect to fuck up somewhere. So I am very open to having civil discussion in regards to this situation. Please call me out politely if I screwed up somewhere. Thank you, that'd be very much appreciated. It's my first time doing this, okay? And I feel like I should say this just in case. I do not speak on behalf of any of iiizick's thoughts, feelings, horny urges, etc. These are my own opinions. I'm someone that makes art for iiizick, not his spokesperson. Now, before I continue with what I want to say, and despite whichever stances I may hold, I want this point to be hammered home. My heart truly does go out for the victims who came out and have been directly affected by iiizick's sexual misconduct. Being a victim of sexual harassment and sexual assault alike is an absolutely terrible matter that I wish nobody had to go through. Even for myself, it really feels like my own memories of sexual assault will never be able to escape me. It hampers down on my self-confidence, harbors large amounts of grief whenever it crosses my mind, and I always continue to blame myself for what happened, like I could have prevented it from taking place. But then I'm just met with feelings of helplessness. I've had countless days where I'd be at my desk or in bed riddled with anguish and crying for hours, and embarrassingly enough to admit, I still do it to date. How we process and deal with sexual abuse is different for everyone, especially depending on the circumstances of the situation. Sexual assault is a topic that should not be taken lightly and should be treated with utmost care, but for me at least, it's been one of the most difficult struggles I've experienced in my entire life. The pain that comes with these sexual abuse experiences is horrendous to say the least, and absolutely no one deserves to have it happen to them. However, that doesn't always mean that the perpetrators of said experiences shouldn't be spared the humanity of learning from their mistakes, especially with a topic as grave as sexual assault. I'd like to supply a point of view to this situation that will definitely be considered controversial. And no, for once, I'm not being contrarian for the sake of controversy, despite those who may know me personally for, well, being kind of a clown. Well, at least that's not my main intention for creating this video. I've skimmed through the replies and quote tweets under the main people who were directly involved in this situation, and well, I couldn't really find anyone who shared a similar opinion to mine, at least someone who shared it publicly. Yeah, on second thought, if you shared an opinion similar to mine and posted it on the internet or even within these Twitter threads, it's gonna be on site for you. So it inclined me towards the creation of my own video. Now I'm the one that's gonna be on site for the people that hold different opinions than I do. Wish me luck. You can call it playing devil's advocate, except that the devil for this scenario is a young adult who's done some unintentional collateral damage. Because horny. I guess. If I could ask you guys as the audience to do anything, it would be to not send harassment towards anybody, regardless of how bad of a person they are in your eyes. That includes, and is not limited to, saying things like, I hope you die, go commit sewer slide, I hope you rot behind bars, kill yourself, D's nuts. Just kidding, you can say D's nuts all you want, I'll allow it. Just, you get my point, hopefully. And I kindly ask for you to not harass me too? Yes, harassment and sexual harassment are like apples to oranges, but being antagonistic towards individuals does the opposite of lending anything productive. Criticize, not despise. These are all young adults that we're dealing with, including myself. People who aren't even at legal drinking age in the US. Our brains aren't even finished developing until we're 25 years of age, so mistakes are going to be made, ill intent or not. So it's important to handle matters like this with utmost care and caution. Yeah? Okay, I already forgot what the next section of the video is gonna be. So, why do I not support the release of the statements/twit-longers these two made? Well, these are serious allegations to throw at someone on the internet, let alone with large followings. In private, within your interpersonal relationships, yes, trash on the kid all you want. But do you people understand the ramifications for calling out someone for something as consequential as sexual assault? Online? While being public influencers? Yes, you're no dream or jelly bean, but lots of people are going to see this regardless. It causes huge reverberations for people you will likely never meet in real life, and same goes for Isaac's future, but will still view him unpleasantly because of these statements you two released. Hey, I'm a nobody. Hopefully, because of that, I won't get cancelled. My non-existent fingers are crossed. People seeing it will flock and support the people that came out and then go and send hate to Isaac. Regardless of the victims being right or wrong, you're ruining this guy's chance at being able to pursue a career within the online space and possibly in real life too. I mean, not without being bombarded by people that are out to harass him on the bounds of sexual abuse accusations. And it's not even indisputable evidence too when you think about it. This falls into cancel culture. This whole situation, it's cancel culture. It's a toxic cultural phenomenon that can have drastic effects upon those who fall victim to it, including but not limited to increased levels of stress, anxiety, and depression. You've probably already heard of cancel culture, but maybe you haven't thought from the perspective of the person being canceled? Source and description. Oh, and how about we start something called being held accountable culture and not partake in cancel culture? Yeah, you're right, that isn't very catchy. But no, I do not condone Isaac's actions, but I'm speaking up like this because canceling someone like this is wrong. I feel like this is something that needs to be said, because I don't see anyone else saying it, so yeah, I had to say it. I don't care if canceling Isaac was under Hannah's or Sammy's agenda at all, because Isaac getting canceled is quite literally what's happening regardless, and canceling him was not the right choice of action. Sounds like you kids really needed to talk shit out if it came to the point of you seeking validation from the internet masses. Oh, me? Nah, I'm mostly making this video to call out people where they fucked up. Also because I despise the overwhelming majority of people that are on Twitter. Young adults are petty and obnoxious little shitbags, myself very much included. Ah, look at you little sheep you. If you enjoyed this video for whatever reason though, that's also pretty dope. Thanks. In regards to the tweets, it's pretty much their word versus his anyways. And hello? Have we forgot about the innocent until proven guilty mantra? Like, these screenshots prove nothing aside from the fact that Sammy and Hannah both have had run-ins with Isaac in the past. But when you're a bystander looking into the situation, more likely than not, it's easier to believe in the victims full-heartedly and default to the accused being completely in the wrong, with little nuance made even in respect to the accused side of the story. Isaac fucked up, yes, but maybe don't go canceling the dude who can't even drink according to US law yet, and oh hey look, male perpetrator. Female victims, because #MeToo and all men are trash, yeah? But Tinkly, Isaac hasn't even come out with his side of the story. Yeah, you try making a structured, clear-headed defense for yourself on a whim when all of your friends turn their back on you, along with the internet simultaneously wanting your head on a platter behind bars. It's an awful time to be living through regardless of how good of a person you are. Walk in his shoes for like half a mile at least? Yes, this was a pathetic statement, but give him a little longer to gather his bearings. Overwhelmed is how you can at bare minimum describe what the dude's going through at the moment, but really the point I'm trying to make is don't take the victim's story as gospel. I'm not saying invalidate the victim's experiences and what they had to go through personally, but that doesn't mean you should go and ruin this guy's life instead. Isaac isn't Trump or Putin last time I checked. Be more productive with your time and go shit on Russia's leadership instead. Maybe even the US's leadership because, man, fuck these gas prices. Just maybe think about this just for a second. Yes, Isaac should be held accountable for his wrongdoings. However, we're all humans here. I mean, I think we are. We're all trying to do the best we can at any given moment with whatever prevailing awareness we have at the time, but inevitably, people will fuck up. What matters the most is when the people in question become aware of why their words or actions were wrong and learn from those incidents, so they can be better in the future. And I'm not implying that the people who came out with their stories are lying about the events either. Technically, we don't know and can't really prove that. But more likely than not, victims don't have the full recounting of what happened like a recorded play-by-play analysis, unbiased and all. For example, Sammy's story. Like stated in the Twitlonger, Sammy came out with her statement after seeing Hannah's. Monkey see, monkey do, I guess. I wonder why she didn't originally call out Iiizick on his quote-unquote misdeeds around when the incident first occurred. Can't possibly because she didn't find it that big of a deal, or because she felt a need to call out an alleged sexual predator to gain more traction on her accounts. Right? Yeah, that's complete crazy talk. She says verbatim, "There wasn't a moment where I was sober enough to make any decisions. I was well aware of that." Ugh, I'm not even gonna go into the ramifications of alcohol and drug abuse. I'm just gonna call you irresponsible and stupid for doing that, because I don't want to get into more trouble than I already will be. She also says here, "I apologize if this is incorrect. Everything was a bit fuzzy." And no, stating don't use my intoxication as misinformation is a contradiction to this entire Twitlonger. Asking to not consider this Twitlonger faulty is like telling me that this orange doesn't display the color orange. You can't dismiss your statement from being misinformation just because you yourself say so. That's not how the world works, baboy. For those of you who don't know or need a reminder, drug intake leads to lapses in your memory. The mere possibility of being incorrect with a recounting of what happened is misinformation and can't be used as a credible accusation against Iiizick, most especially if you or yourself couldn't make the distinction between real or fictive events. Quote, "I thought I was just so intoxicated that all of it was a dream," is what you said yourself. Maybe it's just me, but I would not trust a person under the influence, especially to the extent that Sammy was during these events, to give me a reliable recount of a game of tic-tac-toe, let alone an alleged experience of sexual assault. It's completely another thing to question the liability of sexual interactions and consent while parties are intoxicated, but that's a beast I'll kindly deny to tango with. Curse you, possibility of dire consequences to my actions. But yes, it is very well possible that parts of this Twitlonger are true, but there's no way you can confirm it here with certainty due to Sammy being intoxicated during these events, like she herself stated. Unless there was a party present at the time that has proof or their testimony of what took place. Preferably sober as well. As of my own personal verdict, it's better to call this Twitlonger null than to pick and choose parts to believe are true or are inaccuracies. Like I may have already stated, the undeniable truth of what happens takes precedence over what could be true or what could be false. And that's not even entertaining the possibility of consciously withholding integral information to the situation that brings more insight or better context or, you know, lying. But now, that's probably a bit too egregious for me, if people aren't considering me being egregious enough already. Oh, I can hear it now. Tinkly Winkly, the sexual predator defender, or Tinkly, the rape apologist. I wouldn't doubt being witch hunted after I release this video, but really, that'd make the people going after me clowns, because what have I committed? My right to speaking my own opinion under the First Amendment of the United States Constitution? Go back to scrolling through your Twitter TL while the world is crumbling apart, you troglodyte. As funny as that is, mind you, I'm here to criticize the people involved in this situation, including the audience, the particular audience members that are stupid. If you're watching this video, that probably includes you. Everyone, the vocal part of everyone at least, in this situation has screwed up in some way or another, so how about we just transition to what Hannah posted. Oy vey. This response irks me out more on an emotional viewpoint than Sammy's. Sammy's response was faulty on the basis of intoxication. Hannah's is just, oh god, who hurt you?
It's okay. You can laugh. It's funny.
I loathe how hate-filled this statement is. It's just, ugh. But hey, I understand a sister if it was just PMS. I'm referring to the last third of this Twitlonger here. Link to the libel in the description. Otherwise, I'm going to be reading through this Twitlonger released by Hannah. This segment is going to be chunky in terms of time, and a lot of what I'm about to say is very opinionated, if you haven't gathered that much already. Buckle up or get off this van. Destination, a garbage fire. Let's go!
I'll be honest, I never had any intention in making a Twitlonger about what happened between Iiizick and I. It's one of the main reasons as to why I haven't been streaming or as active on Discord/Twitter and such for the past couple months. I really tried to keep this private and between him and I as much as possible, but after hearing this shit over and over and hearing my name coming out of his fucking mouth, I thought it would be right to share my side of the story.
Well, it seems like you've done a poor job at trying to save face for Isaac, saying that this came out, aka defaming this guy, quite literally the opposite of what your original intentions were. So, why the change in heart? Is it the vigilante justice that'll make you feel better about the events? Is it going to help with your healing? If yes, then good on you. But doing it at the expense of someone else's happiness is not the right idea. Because, humanity. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you? Haven't heard of either of those girls before. Maybe go back to 2010 when you could be inflammatory as you please, and not suffer the repercussions of your actions until, 10 years later, give or take. This statement makes it appear as if you're coming from a place of malice and destruction of his character, not justice for Isaac's wrongdoings or an option for him to rectify the damage done. It was an interaction between two parties, you and Isaac. Are you implying that Isaac isn't allowed to talk about his own experiences with people, but you're the one only allowed to talk about this experience? Was there some NDA that he initialed at the bottom of that we're not aware of? Like, okay, let's step back a tiny bit to get a bigger picture of this. Isaac probably didn't appreciate the fact that you were talking about all of this behind his back either. Both of you wouldn't appreciate either of you doing that. And things get that much hairier when you occupy the same friend circles. You tell your friends about the events and experience, then of course the words that came out of your mouth will travel to the ears of the person you didn't want hearing it, then vice versa. People don't know when to shut the fuck up when you're in friend groups, it's just how it works. Gossipy young adults, I know. Maybe if you had everyone you know sign an NDA, this issue would have been avoided completely. How about we include the 1,000+ people who liked your post into signing an NDA? Then surely Isaac will never know that you've been talking behind his back and prevent his feelings from getting hurt. Sounds like a foolproof plan to me.
If you haven't already heard from Isaac, he's sexually assaulted me. This happened when he visited me a few months ago. The first time we did really anything sexual, it was fully consented and completely okay between the two of us. The second time as well, however, the third time it wasn't.
Wait, heard from Isaac? Was there some sort of integral oral memo that I missed out on? Man, if there was some sort of record of him readily admitting to sexually assaulting you, then that would make my job slightly easier. Only slightly though, this video was a real pain in the ass to make. Semantics. This is a minor call out more than anything, but explaining the circumstances of the first two sexual encounters that were consensual would lend to the delineation of the non-consensual nature of the third sexual encounter. Why were the first two encounters okay and the second one not okay? Probably an easy question for you to answer, but like I said, just a minor thing for the audience's indulgence.
I was asleep when this started to happen. During the first night, I asked Isaac if he wanted to share my bed with me. I had no sexual intent behind this at all, just asked out of courtesy, and since we were really close friends at the time I was fine and comfortable with it. The second night was where it happened. I woke up to Isaac grinding on me and touching me. When I was groggily waking up, I froze and didn't know what to do.
Tell him to stop? You guys were like close friends, right? Simply saying stop or really even an elbow to the stomach would have more than sufficed. Rather a temporary bruise on him than proceeding with something that'll leave you traumatized for a good while. Also sure, you had no intent behind asking Isaac to share the same bed with you, but Isaac wasn't aware of that, was he? See, when you manage to have two consensual, sexy times with each other, it's not unrealistic to expect another gameplay session of Smash. Third time's the charm, or I guess not so charming in this case.
Isaac has a relatively bigger build than me and is much taller than me, so I was scared/worried to say anything. I wasn't moving or showing really any signs of wanting what was happening to me, but I eventually went along with it.
Not showing that you want something doesn't quite correspond to saying that you don't want something. It's not show don't tell. Don't be a textbook storyteller. Be obvious as hell. Ruin the story or else your company won't get a clue that your boundaries are being crossed. Also, just on a smaller note, pun not intended, bigger build isn't really what I think of when I think of Isaac. Yes, I may be around 5'9", but he's built like one of these dudes at a car sales. That bitch is lanky as hell. A toddler clad with football gear running at full speed would be more than enough to snap his spine in half. But anyways, now, this part right here is probably the most significant detail out of this entire response because this is one of the details that really shouldn't be left open-ended. When you say that you went along with it, are you implying that you started to actively participate in the sexual exchange? It's one thing to sit there in bed not reciprocating the actions of the other person, and just letting them have free range over whatever the heck they want to do to you and your body with no resistance, and it's another thing to go along with it, aka not only show no signs of resisting of what's happening, but still choosing to pleasure the other party. It should be common sense to not actively partake in an action if you're not comfortable with it. Based on your retelling, Iizick wasn't holding you at gunpoint or anything like that. You had the option to opt out of this interaction, but participating in it is doing the exact opposite. Acting like you're okay with the sexual advances will make him think that the sexual advances he's making are okay, and therefore spurring them on. Like, hey girlies, I know we tend to be more submissive, but if you keep being submissive, the big dominant males are not going to recognize when you don't want it. Humans can't read minds. Surprising, I know. The nuance there definitely matters.
I remember him putting my hand on his dick and continued acts that I will not go into cause I don't feel comfortable sharing nor do I want to remember. No vaginal or oral sex though, just wanted to clarify, but I just wanted it to end as soon as possible. I knew in the moment I was uncomfortable, but didn't say anything since this was the first time I was meeting him so I didn't know how he would actually react. Plus, he was leaving the next day anyways so I just went along with it and ignored it.
Honestly, the sentence just confuses me wording-wise, given that you both managed to have 2 consensual sexual interactions with no issue during the first time you were meeting him. This twitlonger doesn't really do a great job at explaining the setting or timeline of these events. Somehow, the other twitlonger did a better job at illustrating the setting. Like I said prior, more context, say, about the 2 past consensual experiences, along with elaborating more on the circumstances of the visit itself, would paint a more clear picture of the alleged events that took place.
It took me a week to process what had happened between him and I. I knew in the moment it was sexual assault but kept trying to brush it off as if it wasn't. I kept telling myself Iizick would never do that to you, he's a good friend of yours. You're overreacting, you just want attention, you consented the first night. You let him on, it's your fault he started touching you and grinding on you. You were asking for it and other much worse things I don't want to remember as well. I gaslit myself into thinking my sexual assault wasn't sexual assault.
That's a bit of self-deprecation there, but let's not approach it from a blame or guilt perspective. How about we interpret the actions in a more extrinsic way? I actually don't know what the right word to use here is, but here, you'll see what I mean. I've tried looking up the definition of sexual assault from several different websites. What most of these definitions of sexual assault share is that it's classified as a party committing non-consensual sexually motivated acts towards someone who doesn't want it. Here, is Merriam-Webster a trusty enough source? Here, I'll just slap it on the screen for you. Like I said, these events line up with the definition of sexual assault. I'm not gonna contest to that. However, in Hannah's recounting of the events, there was no point illustrated where Iizick pressured Hannah through any form of intimidation or threat. Yes, she was feeling uncomfortable at the time. However, it doesn't seem like Hannah even made an attempt at expressing she was not okay with the sexual interaction. Yes, this is still classified as sexual assault by definition, but the spectrum of what can be categorized as sexual assault is so broad, including the severity. Yes, sexual assault bad, but I don't think it's crazy for me to say that this sexual offense is on the lower end of severity. The reason why I raise this as a point of contention is because sexual assault tends to be treated as this big, severe offense to commit. Foreplay, grinding, and such should not be treated the same as committing rape with ill intent, with the perpetrator being fully aware that the victim does not or is incapable of consent. I will reiterate again, what happened definitely is not okay, and Iizick should be well aware that the feelings of the victims are valid, and he should very well be held accountable of his actions, but this is not an offense that he should be kicked off the face of the internet and behind bars for. It's not that big of a deal.
I had to repeatedly play in my head that consent video and say to myself, just because you consented once doesn't mean you consent every other time, and if I had to eventually give in / feel obligated to continue. It's not consent, and just the fact that I felt uncomfortable shows that I wasn't consenting.
So I went and watched this consent video along with the slut parody video because that shit was actually hilarious. I recommend giving it a watch. Like I mentioned, yes, you did not consent. However, Iizick did not know that you didn't want the therefore kept giving you Maybe. Please correct me if I'm wrong, because you still went along with drinking tea. Iizick kept giving you said tea. Surely it was uncomfortable, but it doesn't seem like he was holding you against your will to consume the tea either. Yes, not the ideal tea situation to be in. Still should not have happened, but maybe you can see why the tea giver was under the incorrect impression as your sentiment on drinking tea at that very moment.
After another week, I called Iizick to talk to him about what had happened. I sugarcoated it because I, being a fucking idiot, didn't want to hurt his feelings because I was frankly scared again. I couldn't even fucking process what had happened to me fully because he was planning on visiting me again in February, so I had to deal with it ASAP. so sugarcoating it made it easier for me to talk about. We had a good conversation where we both listened and talked things out and ended the first call there. I thought that was it, but obviously me writing this 3 months later, it wasn't over.
I'm glad that you realize now that sugarcoating was the incorrect thing to do. Palatable in the moment, but in the future makes things turn more messy, convoluted, and sour, as you probably know now. It's difficult to navigate touchy situations like this without stepping on a couple toes, but being transparent towards the other party is the best thing you can do in order to clear any such misunderstandings and reduce tensions as much as you can. You two are formerly good friends after all. And I'd assume somewhere in that call you said Iizick sexually assaulted you. Dude was probably mortified about the news, not gonna lie. Like you can see in the text, he was never under the impression that he committed said sexual assault. But yeah, the events plus your experience align with the definition of sexual assault, and I'm not gonna contest to that. At least at the time, he didn't think the experience was sexual assault. Yes, he's incorrect there.
A few hours after the call, I get a text from him saying if it was okay if him and I talked again later that week. I was going on a retreat later that week for a club, so I told him I could call early next week, which he said was fine. After the trip, I received a text from him, which I will post in the replies, which I didn't respond to because frankly, I thought the text was complete bullshit. Anyways, we call I believe the next day and I expected an apology of some sort or basic acknowledgement, but no. You know what I got?
Hey, just wanted to call and check in to see how you were doing.
I'm doing better, I guess.
Good, that's good, I'm glad. That's really all I wanted to hear.
Is that it? Are you sure that's all you wanted to say? Is there anything else? I asked this a couple of times.
Nope. That's it. And if you need anything at all, I'm always here for you.
Okay. Bye. And we hang up.
Hey, wait a second, what? So did you really just push aside the text that he sent you? You didn't even elaborate your thoughts on that massive text he sent, other than you calling it bullshit. Yeah, call the text bullshit, I guess? But you can't complain about not receiving an apology of some sort or acknowledgement when your apology and acknowledgement was right there! Here, I'll even get out my little highlighter for you. Yeesh, entitled much. Despite what you may think, the word sorry appears here a grand total of 3 times. That's a bit more generous than the basic acknowledgement that he so required, don't you think? I think so. Oh, and not to mention that last bit right there, he says, I would appreciate you being an open book and talking this through with me. And what did you say? I'm doing better, I guess. And this? Hello? Do you need to go back to 2nd grade for English comprehension too, you entitled nitwit? God, do you want him to tuck you in at night and deposit 5 figures into your checking account without you asking to? The mans was evidently trying to make amends, but they were like, no, I want you to give me a 10-minute long oratorical speech about begging for forgiveness and kissing up to my ass, or else you shall not be forgiven. Surely it's not that far-fetched of a statement for me to make that the book was still closed. And not you being the one to reply, is there anything else? This part of the text gives off the impression that he wanted to hear more what was on your mind, not necessarily that he should have more to say. That text! That text! You could have even metaphorically opened that book by saying, by the way, yo text was bullshit. That would have been a good conversation starter, surely. But nah, you had to do it later that week, instead of when Iizick called on the action of exercising transparency within that moment. That was a misjudgment on your part. And it's shown here that you were the one who closed off the conversation too, by saying, okay, bye.
Immediately after the call, I talked to a friend, and what they told me infuriated me. Out of privacy reasons I won't be naming the friend, but I was told that he had talked to them and said that I was only saying this because I regretted doing stuff with him and had told others that I didn't even talk to.
Yeah, sure, I think this is a point reiterating. Did you guys agree that you can't talk to certain people about these events? Don't get me wrong, I get irritated too. People were talking behind my back about something serious too, but not choosing to confront me directly. Here, how about a personal example? Oh man, I haven't seen Tinkly in a while. I really hope she's doing okay. Yeah, me too. I'm so worried about her. Then check in on me, you spineless pieces of...
But yeah, everyone talks behind everyone's backs. The sooner you accept that, the less of a butthurt bitch you'll be.
First of all, that pissed me off not because he accused me of lying, but to think that I would ever use sexual assault as an excuse for doing something I regret.
Oh, Iizick. Did you actually say this? Oh god, yeah, you fucked up. If I were the one in Hannah's position, I'd be fucking livid.
If you know me, you know that I am fucking mature enough to not say or do anything if I regretted doing something. I'm literally in college and turning 20 this year. I have better fucking things to do in my life rather than get hungover doing something I regret.
Maybe not mature enough, perhaps? I'm glad you're at the point where you don't dwell on the things you regret. Good time save! Though, you made several misjudgments in regards to the aftermath of the events that took place. That little event towards the end of this twit longer does not exemplify mature behavior, IMO. Oh yeah, and not to mention again, making this whole story go public when it very well could have been settled and cleared up privately in a civil manner. Ergo, making the conscious decision, I'd assume, to paint Iizick in such a detrimental way that will probably follow him for the rest of his life. I personally don't see a legitimate reason as to why the antagonism would be justifiable. Everyone's pain in this situation is valid and does matter.
Just because Iizick hurt you doesn't mean it's fair to get back at him by committing defamation. Literally just talk to him again in private, cope better, or go to therapy. If someone was a shit stain to you, that doesn't mean it's right for you to be a bigger shit stain back. Heh, speak for yourself, Tinkly. You're being a real douchebag. But it's entertaining to be one, so it's just a prank, bro.
Second of all, the blatant disregard of my feelings and sexual assault story overall. After the call had originally ended, I was finally thinking, okay, well that sucked. But at least that's over now. But to think that he went around telling not only my close friends, but other streamers/online friends that I don't even talk with my feelings in my story pissed me off even more. And the very next day after that second call, he goes live on Twitch? Was this because you got confirmation from me that I was okay that you decided to go live on Twitch?
Yes? Is he not allowed to carry on with his life and away from the scope of the situation too? Even just momentarily? He thought you were doing better, so he probably thought he could move on as well. Stating this again, this isn't quote-unquote your story. You can't have a story, or in this case, your story, without the evil antagonist villain pit against the good guy. Don't act like you weren't painting Iizick in a bad light as well, despite you trying to paint him in a quote-unquote good light. Maybe you were trying to go for the kind of story where the villain gets a really dope redemption arc. But I think villains should get a chance to chillax as well, like, you know, streaming to their following. Don't bash on him for taking a break. Everyone deserves to have breaks. And I don't think he should be so personally offended by someone trying to not paint himself in a negative light, aka a sexual predator. Like aforementioned, you yourself were sharing your experience of these events to people that you know, right? Well, it's not the most out-of-pocket thing for him to probably be like, guys, let me explain my side of the story too at least. I can explain! Or else they'd just not want to hear from him. If not, just cut ties with him completely if they heard the story from you first. Not saying that actually happened, but surely you can see why he was sharing and maybe try to defend his side also. Human nature!
Iizick and I shared one last final call later that week where I expressed fully how I felt. I was blunt, said it as it was, didn't sugarcoat anything, absolutely nothing was held back, and I spoke honestly about my true feelings. After the call, he blocked my number, deleted his old Discord, went dark on his old Twitter, and just never came back. That's where his twit longer came in, where he said he was leaving Twitch.
Huh, we get like no details as to how Iizick acted in this call. I just thought that was an odd thing to leave out. Still kinda sus though.
That was the last thing I wanted. I had told the two friends I had confided in originally before the last call that the last thing I wanted from Iizick was for him to leave streaming/the community completely. I didn't want that for him.
But I can sorta see where he's coming from. Why make content in a space where he probably isn't welcome or ostracized by, which is rooted from the events that involved you? It would feel nicer knowing he could continue what he loved doing without being under fire for sexual assault accusations. Personally, I would 100% think he needs to be held accountable for what happened instead of trying to run away from it. But in foresight, I don't think the community would be satisfied with whatever apology he made in regards to the situation. The internet is cutthroat, cruel, and incredibly unforgiving, so he thought it'd be best to try starting from a blank slate again.
I wanted him to grow/learn/move past this. I wanted him to acknowledge how I felt. I had already accepted that I wouldn't get an honest and wholehearted apology. I just wanted some form of closure/acknowledgement, which I didn't get, but I don't need any more. I didn't want him to leave Twitch. I knew how passionate and how much you loved streaming, and even though I knew what you did to me, I didn't want this to make you quit/leave Twitch. But obviously I can't control your actions and just had to accept it as is.
Yeah, I can see he still had good intentions for Iizick, i.e. wanting him to still continue what he loved doing, but good intentions can only go so far. People hearing about the events that perspired between you and Iizick are obviously going to view him in a negative light, whether he wanted that to be the case or not. That's just how hearing about sexual assault allegations between the victim and the victimizer works. And like I mentioned before, here's your form of acknowledgement right here, aka the thing you called bullshit. Yes, you may not have wanted him to leave Twitch, but if you kept hearing unfavorable things being said about you in a community, would you still feel welcome? Let alone want to stay in it? That was the choice he decided to make as a result of the actions that occurred, not your intentions, because Was he ever aware of your intentions to begin with? How would you have acted differently if you were in his shoes? Sounds like another thing that you should have been transparent about with him.
God, I am like this close to lambasting you about how much of a goddamn phony you are. I always had Isaac's best intentions at heart, but alas, he continues to hurt. Moi. Oh, woe is me being the pinnacle of altruism. Now validate me by leaving comments and likes on my pinned post.
Go rip off a toenail.
This is coming up not because Isaac is starting a new Twitch channel. This is coming up because I'm still hearing him tell other people that I'm lying and painting me in a bad light to complete strangers who don't even know me nor know my side of the story.
Here's the timestamp if you want to hear my point again. TLD want to hear or watch again? Permission is not required to talk about experiences you're directly involved in. Yes, it may be a jerk for him to talk about you, ergo even falsifying your experiences, but he's allowed to talk about it. There's no law against it. You may not like it, but you kinda just have to suck it up and stop letting it bother you.
I'm not asking for you guys to believe me or to pick sides. This isn't my intent at all. I never wanted people to have to choose between Isaac and I, and if you guys don't want to associate with me, that's completely fine. I'm sharing this because I'm sick and tired of hearing my story being told without my permission and people who hear only Isaac's side of the story.
People tend to just pick between sides, especially the internet. It's easy to slap things on as black or white than picking a side, in this case, believing and supporting the victim, as opposed to trying to find the nuance associated between the parties involved. People then have to use that thing in their heads called the brain and critical thinking? Pfft, that sounds like a lot of effort that I would not want to bore into.
Those that may think I'm lying, I have no reason nor do I have any intention to try to convince you otherwise.
The story is fine, I just think you're a really shitty storyteller.
Hearing my story is enough. What I do want to ask is why? What possible reason do I have to be lying about this? What do I gain from this?
Attention, shallow validation, a false sense of retribution. Lying not required. Please, you're making this too easy for me. What's next? You're gonna ask me what the first letter of the English alphabet is?
If I truly were trying to gain something out of this, I would have handled this publicly immediately.
No, you can still turn a profit from this. Why do you think people attempt to push charges after an alleged sexual assault incident took place over 5 years ago? Drop the naivete. I already know you're full of shit.
I've been trying to handle this privately for the past 2 months, but Isaac obviously isn't listening nor cares about my feelings at all. So, I'm sorry it had to turn to this.
You could have still definitely handled this privately. There's no justifiable reason for you to let this story go public, unless you wanted to destroy this poor guy's life, career, reputation, etc. And I guess benefiting by being like, ah yes, Isaac be suffering, and now I can be living. What? No, he doesn't deserve that. Yes, he sexually assaulted you. Yes, he needs to be held accountable and responsible for what happened. But getting even like this is not the course of action you should have went with. Oh god, I really hope you guys aren't going to be pushing charges. Do you know how big of a waste of time and money that's going to be for the people involved? It's not worth it! And you said obviously right here. Oh, so you're a mind reader? That's dope! I mean, obviously you don't care about his feelings at all. No need to apologize. Apology not accepted. You did your damage blow against Isaac. Do better. Anyways, was this sentence supposed to imply that he doesn't care about you or your feelings because he kept talking about what happened? From my perspective, both of you acted selfishly in this situation, be it talking behind each other's backs about it, maybe misrepresenting the other side of the person's story to their detriment, or defaming the other person publicly. On the internet, of all things. Both of you were hurt in ties to the events that perspired that day, and both of your guys' feelings toward the situation are valid. But yes, Isaac fucked up. I do not disagree with that.
The point is, I'm fucking tired, dude. After the last call between him and I thought it was finally over. I thought I could finally rest, but this shit got brought up again. I have been moving on and am doing much better than I was around 2 months ago. I have lovely friends that have been supporting me throughout this and I love and appreciate them endlessly. The only reason why I'm really writing this is to put an end to this story / try to put an end. I'm tired of having to relive the story over and over again and having to remember what happened every time I hear about him accusing me of lying or having to tell my side of the story to people I don't talk to.
Honestly speaking, for the people who keep telling you about what Isaac's been saying / doing, to be honest, Hannah could be like, hey, can you people stop bringing up that topic to me? I'm doing my best to move on from what happened. Not a legitimate point, just thought that was something funny to point out, seeing that it was one of the reasons that pushed you into releasing this public statement. And in regards to trying to put this story to an end, well, I guess it may have ended in your eyes and you want to move on, but the rest of said story had a massive impact in regards to people now hearing about what happened. You've heard of the butterfly effect, yeah? Sure, maybe months and god, hopefully years from now it could be considered water under the bridge, but the internet, Oh, the internet never forgets and rarely ever forgives. And last time I checked, you don't have control over the internet. People are going to continuously bash iiizick in regards to these events, whether you want that for him or not. And if that is what you want, I hope I never get associated with you.
Thank you for listening to my story, and this is the last you'll hear from me about him. I really just want to move on.
Yes, I'm going to bring up the fact that this tweet is pinned for like the 12th time. You're moving on just as much as the fat acceptance movement. Sorry for making that joke in 2022. I just find the irony of pinning this twit longer on her profile way too fucking funny.
Message to iiizick, if or not iiizick, I don't care. Read if you want.
Oh, you don't care? Is that my cue to tear this section into shreds without any restraint or holding back? What are you gonna do, dislike this video? Yeah, I don't care either, let's go!
Hi, first of all, fuck you. I hope you know, I never wanted to write this. You can ask literally anyone that knows both sides of the story. I thought we would just both move past this and move on with both of our lives. Remember what I told you in the last call that one time?
Oh man, you're such a good person. You never wanted to write this, despite now releasing this statement, aka showing that you haven't moved on from this because now you're seeking the validation of the masses to be on your side for this? You very well could have still kept this private, but no. You wanted to slander the shithead publicly instead and get attention and all your little sympathy points. Oh wow!
Would you like a good noodle star for having the best intentions for iiizick?
Or I guess did past tense, but the turns have tabled. Now it seems like you're the one who has blatant disregard for iiizick's feelings because of the release of this statement. You're not the bigger person. This is fucking pathetic behavior.
I don't think you intentionally tried to assault me, but what's assault is still assault whether or not you had the intention of doing so. I don't think you're a bad person. Good people fuck up sometimes, and you fucked up.
Yes, he fucked up. Everyone knows he fucked up by sexually assaulting you. In other news, water makes things wet. That doesn't mean you get the green light and return the favor by ruining his online reputation. If this is how you want him to be held accountable for his actions, this isn't it. This is libel. You're lucky that libel isn't a crime in California, or you'd be fucked. It's only considered as a civil wrong.
But I'm surprised you just keep fucking up. iiizick, I've tried to give you the benefit of the doubt so many times. I've made so many excuses for you in my head. I've acknowledged your side and why you may not view what happened between us as sexual assault. What I don't like is you telling others how I feel and tell them that I'm lying and invalidating my feelings behind my back. Don't act like you didn't, and don't act surprised that I knew. I knew ever since the second call but never said anything till now because it keeps happening.
Being practically a teenager and fucking up. Name a more iconic duo. Quit being such a fucking piss baby. How many times do I gotta say that he's allowed to talk shit? You can talk shit. He can talk shit. I can talk shit. There's no laws saying that we can't talk shit. Free speech. It's your fault if you want to keep being offended by exercising their right to free speech. You guys both handled it terribly by misrepresenting each other's sides. But you don't need to whine to the internet to have your feelings validated. Screw your double standards.
But right there, it says that this message was meant for iiizick, not anyone else.
Then why did you still include this part? It's public. That means I can call fucking bullshit on this all I want. Quit taking it personally.
I never wanted you to quit Twitch. I never wanted you to isolate yourself from your friends. I never wanted you to feel the amount of hurt you may have felt. But trust me, buddy, you wouldn't want to feel how I felt those past 2 months.
Your good intentions have little to no bearing on this issue if you're choosing to fuck over his reputation in front of 1,000, if not thousands of people, if you want to include the whole goddamn community.
Despite how good of a person he is,
I'm being pretty generous by not saying the amount of people on the internet, even though this is very well the internet. The both of you experienced some serious mental health struggles in light of this situation. That doesn't mean iiizick's pain is any less valid. This isn't a dick measuring contest for the amount of mental cock and ball torture you both went through. Stop it!
iiizick, I couldn't even think straight in college. I would be working on an assignment in my college's office and the memory of you would pop into my head and I would get the urge to throw up. I almost did. I would go home early and cry. My friends from home had to call and check in on me every night because I kept telling myself what you did to me wasn't real and what you were saying about me wasn't true.
Get therapy. He's responsible for the actions that he did to you, not the results and aftermath of those actions. That's something that you have to deal with yourself, whether you like it or not. That's just how the world works.
I had to convince myself so many times that what I was feeling was valid and what you did was sexual assault.
That's correct.
Why, iiizick? Why do you think I would lie about this? Is it easier to say that I'm lying rather than accepting that what you did to me was sexual assault and moving on? Does it make you feel better painting me in the bad light and convincing yourself I'm the bad guy? It obviously does, seeing how you've been telling others.
Yes, saying that you were lying is how he coped with the situation. The stubborn fuck doesn't want to admit that what he did was sexual assault. Yes, he convinced himself with lies in order to feel better. Yes, he wanted to put this all behind him and move on. Quit using the question format. We know why he did all of these things. In short, Iizick sucked at coping. We're all young and stupid. We make young and stupid mistakes. According to your words, I highly disagree with what he said and the actions that he took, and it was 100% a dick move. I'm with you there. Trust me.
What you don't know, while you were trying to paint me in a bad light, I was trying my best to keep you in a good light. While I told my 2 to 3 close friends, whom were your friends as well, about what happened, I kept saying how you were a good person but had just made a really awful mistake. How they shouldn't leave you as a friend. How I wanted you to continue Twitch. As much as I wanted to just despise and hate you, I couldn't because I knew you. And I knew you never intended to hurt me, but after saying shit about me and accusing me of lying behind my back, hearing that hurt almost as much as processing what happened.
Oh, and now because you've heard of him lying behind your back, you think he deserves to have his whole reputation ruined. Perfectly balanced, as all things should be. My god, you're such a stuck-up brat.
A couple of my friends through these 2 months kept telling me just publicly make a statement and call him out, and I turned them down.
Good, they're assholes.
I didn't want to do this because I was worried it would detriment your career. Funny how I was looking out for you this whole time even though I was the one that was assaulted, hey.
Ah yes, look at you, stroking your proverbial dick. You putting that on your resume?
Oh, I was truly looking out for him this entire time because I wanted his reputation to be squeaky clean because I knew he was a good person even though I was the one who was the victim in this situation who got sexually assaulted. Look at how good of a person I was through this entire situation.
Fuck off. I've been sexually assaulted too, but you don't see me doing something as extremely fucking pathetic as run his name through a trail of lion feces for some goddamn attention online due to a puny sense of self-worth and seeking shallow outside validation. My dick's bigger than yours. Grow up.
Anyways, that's it. I hope you move on from this and grow/learn. Keep my name out of your mouth. Stop telling people how I'm feeling/felt. You're just putting words in my mouth to people I probably don't even know. I don't care if you tell them your side/perspective. Don't try and tell them how I feel though. Everything about how I feel is written here in this twit longer if they need a reference.
Oh my god, yeah, sister, you tell him. Preach, get his ass.
This contradicts the earlier points you made. You trashed on him earlier for talking about these events. Of course he's going to talk about you in relation to the events that happened because you were involved. He has every right to talk about how you felt also. Grow up, Air. Grow up, and in the most polite way, get fucking therapy.
I'm done. I've moved/am moving on and you should too.
Well, I sure hope you moved on. Pinning this tweet does not signify moving on and or moved on. More than anything, it means that you still want people to read, see, or hear about this. If you're moving on in the slightest, don't pin this fucking tweet. This will result in even more people talking about what happened, therefore it remaining as a prevalent topic within your community, regardless of what your intention is. Sure looks like the rest of the internet won't be moving on anytime soon. Despite what Iizick did to you, despite you or no one deserving to get sexually assaulted, Iizick does not deserve to have his career and reputation ruined because of what you said. Yes, I'm calling you out, Hannah. This was a fucking dick move for you to make, and now Iizick has to bear the full brunt of these allegations. I hope you're happy now that you're the one neglecting his feelings. I hope you're happy, asshole. Oh yeah, I'm so fucking dead.
This is a mini segment I wanted to add just because I think it's something significant that should at least be touched upon. All I do here is elaborate on things I've already said, so feel free to skip this part. There's probably timestamps for you somewhere. This is just how I'm going to get my other dose of ranting. I mentioned it at least in one of my earlier points, but cases for sexual harassment, sexual abuse, and sexual assault alike shouldn't be treated equally. Well, actually, each particular case of sexual abuse should be treated with nuance dependent on the circumstance of the case. AKA harassment does not equal assault and does not equal rape. Because I'm tired of people virtually equating minor sexual offenses to that of something as awful as first-degree rape. There's different levels of severity, you buffoons. Think, Mark, think! And yes, I don't condone any of it. However, conflating things that are not the same measure makes things seem much worse than they actually are in reality. Gotta love that context, baby, along with that nuance, my two favorite waifus of all time. Like how even the not legal definition of sexual sexual harassment has been warped. Now it kinda just includes any sort of interaction that can be considered even remotely sexually charged, aka make you feel at least a tad bit uncomfy. With sexual assault too, don't feel comfortable with the sexual exchange you're having with somebody even though you're consciously going along with it and the option to opt out of it is very much in the realm of possibility? Slap the sexual assault label right onto that baby, and when you decide to tell other people about it, magically watch as 100% of the blame will fall squarely onto the perpetrator. It's not even a matter of if you regret it or not. Low-key, it's an easy way to dismiss any sort of personal accountability attached to the experience. Life hacks by Tinkly Winkly. But legitimately, all you current or future sexual harassment victims and perpetrators out there, you can't expect people to have the same tolerances that you do when it comes to forms of sexual exchanges. It's important to note when that line gets crossed, and when it does, let the other participating parties know. That's how people come to understand where everybody else's boundaries lie. They gotta be told. It can maybe even prevent stupid shit like this from happening in the future. Alright, did I bore the viewers yet? Just wanted to casually slip in probably my hottest take in this video while the audience retention rate is probably at its lowest. Another thing I wanted to rant about is how jaded I am by sexual assault allegation stories, particularly stories shared informally on social media. Sexual assault can be classified as so many things under the sun that I barely bat an eye whenever I see a victim's story on my feed, especially if the details of said incident are on the lower part of the severity spectrum. Yeah, I'll just be straightforward. If you've watched the video up to this point, it's evident that I regard Hannah's and Sammy's sexual assault statements as criminally poor taste. Hannah has the biggest and arguably most irrational vendetta against iiizick, and Sammy just followed suit. Like, sorry, not sorry for saying this, but Sammy's statement in regard to the circumstances of the sexual assault really doesn't seem like it impacted her very largely. In the twit longer, I couldn't find anything that mentioned attempting to seek closure from the perpetrator since they were close with each other at the time, which I personally find very odd. Seeking closure from the perpetrator was the first thing I tried to do because we were considered good friends at the time. Unapproachable is one of the last words I'd use to describe iiizick, so something isn't adding up there on that front. In my mind, I just can't take their experiences as alleged sexual assault victims seriously just because, to me at least, it seemed like the sole directive of sharing their personal stories was to cast their ire over someone they hold distaste for, and not for anything tangibly productive like educating or spreading the awareness of sexual assault. I'm not implying that all your actions have to be inherently made in good nature, but you can't contest that the main idea was to just throw iiizick overboard, also known as breeding hatred. All gathering together to defeat the big bad iiizick. Huzzah! A truly courageous cause, really, for he is the root of all evil, of course. This entire situation literally feels like silly teenage drama between people who sucked at explicit communication, and everyone loses because young stupid people. That's why I subconsciously downplay sexual assault stories shared on social media. It rarely ever feels like there's a purpose to sharing it in an online public space unless you want to farm sympathy points or cancel somebody you don't like. It would actually be pretty nice if these two proved me wrong, but this whole situation is just messy on the front that it very well could have been handled privately without making such an unnecessary ruckus. How's that for a take that'll probably get me witch hunted? Misunderstandings, yeah. They happen. It's just that some misunderstandings can lead to results or consequences more grave than others. In foresight, we typically won't know until we cross there. Oh yeah, this is another important point that doesn't just apply to sexual interactions. Treat the actual crime, but don't shame a lack of behavioral or social coordination that young undeveloped prefrontal cortex shitheads can't help having. Yes, I'm talking about iiizick. Yeah, you know what? I'll just use this to segue into the part where I talk about him some more. Feel free to skip this if you want, it's not terribly important. Actually, when you think about it, this entire video also isn't terribly important. I just want to talk about my personal experiences with him and trash on the dude some more, not gonna lie. So, for those of you who may be curious or still give a shit for some odd reason, I have known iiizick ever since 5th grade in elementary school. I did not like this guy in 5th grade, let alone for a majority of my middle school experience. In 5th grade, the guy scribbled on top of my drawings I made for people. Like, you know how some teachers have like fake currency that they hand out that's given in reward for being a good student, like active participation, doing your homework, picking up trash, etc.? Well, that was what my 5th grade teacher did, and you know what I did? I took advantage of that currency system by selling my own drawings to earn more of that said currency. iiizick, however, scribbled on top of them, graffitied my goddamn property. Thanks, Iizick. That's one of my first formative memories I had about you, you motherfucking dickwad. We went to the same middle school as well, and we were a part of the same primary friend group. Look, here's a drawing I made of the group 6 years ago. That's me with my signature Lambie, and this is him. He was and still is kind of a Naruto weeb, hence the outfit. Why are they all marshmallow shaped, you may ask? It's because I couldn't draw humans as well as I do current day. Yay, drawing improvement, woohoo! And just because I'm showing off a lot of my art right now, here's a drawing of Iizick I also did from 6 years ago. I actually don't think it looks too bad still. I really like how dynamic I went with the shading and the colors. I like drawing my friends for some reason. God, I am not nearly as ambitious as I was 6 years ago. Really a shame. But yeah, was never really close friends with him, just friends at best. And we barely interacted during high school aside from the handful of times we played Bed Wars with each other. Oh yeah, we also didn't go to the same high school, so... I reminisce on playing Bed Wars with him. And then he became famous on Twitch, and then we just never played again. Oh, woe is me. But hey, at least he got in contact with me to make his art assets. Me? Getting money? Of course I accepted his offer. Yeah, I guess not playing Bed Wars with him anymore isn't so bad if he's paying me. I can't really complain much there, can I? He was a good client to work with. He knew pretty much exactly what he wanted, which made my job 100 times easier. And thanks to him advertising who did his art, aka moi, I got more future clients out of it. So I have that much to thank him for. Still very low-key salty that I gave him discounted prices, but he did give me more clients to work with in result. So yeah, we were both kinda supporting each other's ambitions, me with creating art for him and Iizick throwing my name out there because I hated self-advertising. I never was an active part of his built-up following and community in general. Usually I'd pop in to say a couple messages once a blue moon, then either just lurk his stream in the background or just not watch at all. I really didn't want to personally associate with the, I guess, Minecraft Bed Wars community or any other communities adjacent because it was full of predominantly young people that hurt my brain because, well, they're young and more often than not, dumb. Like, legitimately from a viewer perspective, I enjoy his personality and presence a lot. His quips are entertaining to me, I can align with his sense of humor, and I overall can appreciate his more lax but strong-minded disposition. But like I said prior, I never got close with him, and we definitely were not each other's type. As for in regards to the accusations, this statement he released, it's dog shit. Everyone has gathered that much. It's like the least Iizick sounding thing I've ever seen come out of Iizick. You'd think that maybe he was encouraged by another party to release the statement in order to save face for himself, but somehow whomever or whatever gave him such guidance has absolutely dog shit advice. He would have been better off not saying anything at all. Screw whoever told him to say this. Yeah, there are very few responses, let alone any at all, that are considered acceptable to put out publicly when you receive backlash from the internet. This, however, ain't it, chief. But as for this twit longer that I refuse came from Iizick directly, this last sentence isn't completely wrong. Not the falsifying events part, more so the expense of another's reputation for selfish reasons and personal gain part. Because honestly, think for a sec. Genuinely, what reasons out of good, well-intentioned faith is there to come out and accuse Iizick of sexual harassment aside from letting him know that he needs to be held accountable for his actions? You could have easily done that by sliding into his Twitter DMs or some shit. Or hey, you could have even pressed charges against him if you wanted to, but publicly slandering him on Twitter? No. Top 10 easiest ways for me to lose all respect for someone. I probably wasn't gonna talk to these two anyways, but I definitely don't really want to talk to them now. Unless they want to talk about this civilly, open for discussion. Other than that, I probably don't want you to be my friend. But this man has rightfully fucked up in more ways than one. There's evidence of him downplaying the victim's experience. And yeah, the whole non-consensual tea. Yeah, he fucked up. But like I've said many times throughout this video, and I will reiterate it again here, he doesn't deserve to be under such heavy fire as a result of the events that took place. Maybe show a tad more mercy towards Iizick. Yes, both Hannah and Sammy have both experienced intense struggles because of Iizick's actions, but Iizick is very much going through the ringer as well. Not to mention how fickle his friends and relationships alike may have probably become. He needs to be held responsible, but sending and spreading animosity about him is not the way to do it. Even Hannah herself said that he's a good guy, and hell, if you care about my opinion at all, which I guess you do if you clicked on this video, I think he's a good guy as well. He's just incredibly fucking stubborn. I know some people in the community idolized him, and it definitely hurts to see someone you once looked up to fall from grace as hard as this. However, remember, he's human just like the rest of us, and he's far from perfect. He makes mistakes, we all do. Thank you to those who gave their support to the two who came out about their experiences, because sexual assault is a heavy topic that isn't very fun to bring up or talk about. However, I believe that these two, Hannah especially, could have handled this situation so much better than how these matters ended up playing out. I don't condone the actions that Isaac's done with these two women, but I still think we should give him a chance to learn from the mistakes he's made. Hopefully, Isaac has or will become aware of why his words and actions were wrong and then learn and grow from these incidents. Because by God, I hope he explains why this statement sounds like an insensitive boomer wrote it. We're all continuing to learn wrong from right. Let me also add that you fully have the right to not support Isaac. Live your life however, I just like to ramble my ass off. I'm not demanding that you guys should support or forgive him, just really think twice before completely loathing the guy, let alone sending him hate. We're all human here, we all deserve a little more compassion in our lives. Compassion culture? Anyone? I think that's at least a little more catchier than being held accountable culture. Yeah, cancel culture still probably has the best ring out of all three of them. I honestly don't think I'm going to change very many minds with the release of this video, but if I somehow got one person to introspect because of something I said and change their mind even just a little bit, not only will I be extremely surprised, but not gonna lie, a little happy. Actually, scratch that a little. I'll be pretty satisfied if I made someone laugh with this video, regardless of whatever stances you hold towards this situation. If someone got entertainment value out of this, yay! I did what I wanted to do! If someone actually learned something new out of this video, also cool, but honestly very astonishing to me? Well, legitimately, if you happen to watch through the whole duration of this video, whether you were watching it on your computer or phone while doing homework, playing games, drawing, doing chores, browsing social media, doing absolutely nothing and spacing on several parts of it, thank you! I appreciate you taking the, how long is this video? That many minutes out of your day to watch it. Because how the hell do you watch a 1 hour plus video without skipping around at least once? But yeah, I know it's super fucking cheesy and predictable for me to say all of that stuff, but I do mean it. Thank you. But hey, you know what's a bit less predictable? You know the art you've seen throughout the duration of this video? You know the art of that weird bunny looking gremlin thing that periodically shows up on the bottom right side of the screen in this video? Yeah, this one. That art was all made by me. If you like what you saw, you can even commission me for artwork at